Happy Saturday. My name is Stacey Leanne. I love makeup, I love true crime, and I am a huge horror fan. So if that sounds like you, let's hang out. This week we are talking about Travis Walton and the true story of Fire in the Sky. I kind of thought it was fitting to go in with my Intergalactic palette from Jolie Beauty. Everything I use will be listed in the description down below. I do have an affiliate link if you ever want to treat yourself. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Fire in the Sky is a 1993 film based on the alleged abduction of Travis Walton in 1975, as recounted in his book The Walton Experience. While the movie portrays a terrifying alien encounter, it significantly deviates from Walton's original account and has been labelled as a hoax by many, including some UFO enthusiasts. It's a lot of big words. The incident was an alleged alien abduction of American forestry worker Travis Walton on November the 5th, 1975 in the Apache Sitgraves National Forest near Harbor, Arizona. It is widely regarded as a hoax even by believers of UFOs and alien abductions. That night, Walton and Rogers watched the UFO incident, a movie about the alleged, what is wrong with me? Abduction of Barney and Betty Hill. After the broadcast, Walton reportedly discussed the possibility of being taken aboard a flying saucer. In 1975, Travis, aged 22, was a member of a 7-person forestry crew led by Carl's brother Michael Rogers, aged 28. The year prior, Rogers won a bid of a federal contract to thin out small trees from an area known as Turkey Springs in the Apache Sitgraves National Forest, when he underbid 2 other contractors, after which he reported recollections of an alien abduction. Now, recovered memory therapy is not based in scientific evidence, and recovered memories are indistinguishable from false memories. The film actually aired 2 weeks before Travis Walton's UFO incident, prompting suggestions that the film inspired Rogers and Walton to conduct their own alleged abduction story. Psychologists and skeptics argued that after viewing this movie, any person with little imagination could now become an instant celebrity by claiming that they too were abducted. Shortly before his disappearance, Travis told his mother not to worry if he was ever abducted by aliens, because he would be returned safely. Okay, he's just gonna hang out with them and then they'll drop him home. Now, on November the 5th, 1975, Crew Chief Rogers reported Travis Walton missing to the Navajo County Sheriff. Now, 6 members of the crew claimed they were driving down a forest road when they saw a lit object above the ground near the roadway. They reported that Walton got out of the truck and ran towards the object, which shone a light on him. They said they drove away in fear. There's some great friends there. Don't stick around to help, just drive off. They did return 15 minutes later to find both Walton and the light missing. Now, Turkey Springs is about 12 miles south of Harbour, and Travis and the rest of the crew lived 30 miles away in Snowflake. Great names. At 7:45 p.m, a member of the logging crew called Officer L.C. Allison. Now, Allison, Sheriff Marlin Giuseppe and Deputy Kenneth Copeland drove to Harbour to meet with the loggers. Rogers and 2 crew members agreed to return to Turkey Springs with 3 officers, while the other 3 crew members refused to return and instead drove home in Rogers' vehicle. The 5 men did search Turkey Springs until shortly after midnight, when Sheriff Giuseppe paused the search until the morning. Around 1:30 a.m, Navajo County Deputy Sheriff Kenneth Copeland and Rogers visited Walton's mother, and according to Copeland, when he informed her of the disappearance, she says, "Well, that's the way these things happen." It's a weird response. Copeland did say he was shocked at how well his mother took the news and how she wasn't genuinely surprised. Walton and his brother Dwayne and his mother were described by the sheriff as long-term students of UFOs because Travis Walton's mother lived in a ranch house with no telephone services. Rogers drove her into town so she could call Travis's brother, Dwayne, and their sister, while Copeland followed them in. Around 3 a.m, Walton's mother called her daughter, waking her, and Deputy Copeland was just so surprised at how well the family took this news. Regional papers covered the story on November 8th, and that day a member of the Phoenix-based UFO interest group recorded a 65-minute interview with Chief Rogers and Travis's older brother, Dwayne. At no point in the interview did either of them express any concern for Travis. He's still missing at this point. They were more confident that Travis would return. During this interview, Rogers did discuss the forestry contract, saying, "This contract we have is seriously behind schedule. In fact, on Monday, the time is up. We haven't done any work since Wednesday on account of everything that has happened, and he hopes they take this into account. Forestry contracts do include an act of God clause that excused contractors who were delinquent due to unforeseen circumstances, like an alien abduction." During this interview, Dwayne revealed that he, Travis, and their mother were UFO buffs who had previously discussed that if they ever saw a UFO, they would immediately get under the object because the opportunity to go aboard a UFO was too good to be passed up. Dwayne repeatedly insisted that Travis was not missing. He knew where he was, and Travis knew where he was. On November 9th, law enforcement continued the search for Travis. until late afternoon, when Walton's mother again did request that the search be halted. By November 10th, stories of Walton's disappearance were being published throughout the US, the UK and Canada. On November 11th, the press reported that Travis's mother felt any further searching for Travis would be useless. Also on November the 11th, Rogers and 5 other members of the forestry crew were interrogated by Arizona Department of Public Safety polygraph examiner C.E. Gilson to determine if the men had in fact murdered Travis Walton. They all denied harming Travis, and Gilson determined that 5 out of the 6 men were being truthful and described the 6th man as inconclusive. On November the 12th, shortly after midnight, Walton placed a collect call to his sister's home from a payphone in Heber, Arizona. He reached her husband, Grant Neff, who drove to pick up Dwayne and proceeded to Heber to pick up Travis. Neff later reported he thought the caller was intoxicated. As part of the collect call procedure, Travis told the operator his name. She recognized it as that of the missing man and alerted Sheriff Giuseppe, who dispatched a deputy to the family ranch home. Deputy Glenn Flake arrived at 2 a.m. where he witnessed Dwayne Walton transferring fuel from one car to another after having forgotten to purchase gas before the local stations closed. Flake didn't reveal that he knew Travis had returned, and Dwayne did not tell the deputy that Travis had been found. So what exactly happened? So Walton claims that he awoke from a light and thought he was in hospital until he noticed that the beings standing above him were not human and he was not in a hospital. Walton then noticed that the creatures could be and were most likely grey aliens. The creatures began to examine Walton, and he said he fought with them until a human wearing a helmet led Walton to another room where he blacked out as 3 other humans put a clear plastic mask over his face. Travis said he later woke up in the forest where he had been abducted earlier, but he was wearing his clothes on backwards. This was an obvious sign that his clothes had been removed during his alleged encounter with the aliens. Walton originally thought that he had been missing for only 5 hours. However, Walton learned later that he was in fact missing for 5 whole days. Walton later reported his abduction and had his boss draw an illustration of what the creatures that had abducted him looked like. His drawing showed a seemingly average depiction of a grey alien wearing a jumpsuit. Walton doesn't consider his experience to be an abduction as much as a rescue mission. He believes he was accidentally injured by the alleged craft, and the types of aliens he encountered were in fact trying to heal him. So, seeking medical attention for Travis, Dwayne reached out to a UFO researcher he'd met days prior. The researcher referred them to Dr. Lester Stewart, a hypnotist. Dwayne took Travis to meet with Stewart, but his first words were that Travis needed a medical examination with lab tests and was not ready for a hypnotic regression. Stewart noticed that Travis seemed very confused and reminiscent of drug addicts he had treated. Stewart also noted that Travis had a small lesion on the inside crease of his right elbow, consistent with intravenous drug use. After meeting Stewart, the Waltons returned to Dwayne's home, where UFO researchers arranged a house call by two medical doctors who were also amateur UFO investigators. They arrived around 3 p.m. Dwayne forbade them to use their cameras or tape recorders, nor would he allow them to ask Travis questions about his experience. The doctors noticed a presence of apparent puncture marks and estimated it to be 24 to 48 hours old. That day, stories of Travis's return had begun to spread, and press began calling Dwayne's home in an attempt to reach Travis. Dwayne finally informed law enforcement of Travis's return, calling Sheriff Giuseppe, who insisted on seeing Travis immediately. The sheriff drove the 4 hours into Glendale and arrived at 11 p.m. Dwayne and Travis demanded that Sheriff Giuseppe did not record the interview. Why? On November the 14th, Travis skipped a polygraph interview with police, but that night, in the presence of the Inquirer reporters, a doctor associated with a UFO group had a 2-hour conversation with a hypnotized Travis. Maybe they had an exclusive. That would make more sense. The following day, on November the 15th, Travis was interviewed by Jack McCarthy, a freelance polygraph examiner arranged by a UFO group and the Inquirer. McCarthy concluded that Travis engaged in a gross deception and had been intentionally holding his breath in an attempt to beat the machine. In the days following Walton's UFO claim, the National Enquirer awarded Walton and his co-workers $5,000 prize for the best UFO case of the year. They were said to have passed polygraph tests administered by the Inquirer and the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization. That's a mouthful. UFOologist Jim Ledwell said for 5 days the authorities thought he had been murdered by his co-workers, and then he was returned. According to Ledwell, all the co-workers who were there who saw the spacecraft, they all took polygraph tests and they all passed except for one that was inconclusive. UFO researcher Philip Klass, who agreed that Walton's story was a hoax perpetrated for financial gain, identified too many discrepancies in the accounts of Walton and the crew. In 1978, Walton wrote a book, The Walton Experience, detailing his claim. In 1978, Walton wrote the book, The Walton Experience, detailing his claims, and in 1993, the book served as inspiration for the film Fire in the Sky. Travis Walton has made a cameo in the film. Paramount Pictures decided that Walton's account was too fuzzy and too similar to other televised close encounters, so they ordered screenwriter Tracy Torm to write a flashier, more provocative abduction story. On March the 19th, 2021, Mike Rogers posted a statement to his Facebook page announcing I, Michael H. Rogers, being of sound and rational mind, do hereby give notice that I am no longer to be considered a witness to Travis C. Walton's supposed abduction on November 5th, 1975. He later clarified that Travis tried to keep a new remake of the movie a secret from me. He has always had big secrets that he has kept from me. It angered me. I tried over the last 2 weeks to reason with him, but to no avail. I don't believe Travis is an honest person, and therefore I want nothing to do with him. Just trying to cut Mike out of the paycheck, you see. On April the 30th, Rogers placed a call to producer Ryan Gordon, who was also working on a new film about the Walton incident. Gordon recorded the call without Rogers' knowledge as permitted in Arizona law. 2 months later, on July the 4th, Gordon publicly posted audio from the call which featured Rogers explaining, "We were talking in the woods one day. We were talking about creating a UFO hoax. I don't know how the UFO got there, but I remember I was driving the truck and he jumped out. It was all deliberate. It was all staged. It was all a staged thing, okay?" He ran up there and there was something about the UFO not being real, although it looked real. Rogers and Walton later reconciled, and Rogers issued a statement retracting his confession. So was it all a hoax? Rogers acknowledged that he had watched the first part of the recent television special that dramatized Barney Hill's alien abduction case, while the Waltons acknowledged prior discussions of wanting to be taken aboard a UFO. The Walton family long had a reputation for pranks and practical jokes. Within 4 months of the incident, UFO author Raymond Fowler himself, believing in UFO and abductions, proposed that some members of the crew had been the victim of a hoax perpetrated by Walton and Rogers. So, was this all about not meeting their work deadline? Was this all just a hoax, or was this all about money? Or was this indeed an alien abduction? I 100% believe that there are other life forms out there. I'm not convinced this happened, but what do you think? I do love a horror, sci-fi. I am a slasher girl through and through, but definitely a follow-up is a good sci-fi horror. There is one film that I just absolutely love. It's called Altered, and that bit with the intestines, it gets me every time. Anyway, that was the story of Travis Walton and Fire in the Sky. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week.